Welcome, dear students, to this class on culture studies. Today we'll discuss the essay Encoding and Decoding by Stuart Hall. Stuart Hall developed a new model for communication process in his essay Encoding and Decoding in the Television Discourse in 1973. In this essay, he's talking about a new model or new model for this communication process, which was initially considered to be a linear one, a symmetrical one. So initially there's a message, and the message will be sent by the sender, and the receiver receives the message as it is. So it was considered to be a linear process. But Stuart Hall says, it is not a linear model, it's kind of loop. And he identifies different stages in this communication process. He says there are 4 stages in this process of communication. And he discusses these 4 processes in this essay and how they are related, and also how the message is encoded and how the audience decodes this message. So we'll see first we see the 4 stages in this process of communication. So what are the 4 stages that he talks about? One is production. The second one is circulation. The third is use or consumption, and the fourth is reproduction. So these are the 4 stages that he identifies in the communication process. So what are these 4 stages? One is production, circulation, use or consumption. He uses the word use, and the 4th one is reproduction. So we'll see these different stages and what Stuart Hall says about it. Stuart Hall says that these are relatively autonomous stages. We cannot say that these are completely autonomous, but they are autonomous to some extent. They relate to one another. There is some sort of relationship between each of these stages, and we identify a kind of a structure that dominates or that connects all these 4 stages. He says that there is a complex structure of dominance which comes to play in the process of communication, and we can see when we analyze these 4 stages. So what is the first stage? That is production. So the center want to convey a message, and it has to be produced, or in order to circulate this message, the producer needs to encode this message into a discourse, into a discursive form. So if if the message is passed as it is, the audience may not receive it. So it has to be in a very interesting discourse in a discursive form. Only then it will be circulated among the receiver, right? So there is a message. The producer, in the first initial stage of production, in order to circulate it, what happens? It is being converted into a discourse. And then what happens? This discourse is being circulated, and the audience, what happened? The receiver, they put it into use, or they consume this discourse. And then in the 4th stage, what do they do? They reproduce what the producer actually wants them to do. So these are the 4 stages or 4 determinant moments in the process of communication. That is another phrase that he uses. Determinate moments in the process of communication. So you have production, circulation, use, and reproduction. So I'll give you an example. You will understand these 4 stages much better. For example, take any ads in the television that we see, or fairness cream, or for example, we find many ads on jewelry. So take one ad on jewelry. So what is the message that needs to be propagated? What is the message in an ad on jewelry? That you need to buy more and more jewelry. Only then your life will be complete. You need to wear and buy jewelry, right? So that is the message that needs to be communicated. So the producer of meaning or producer of this message will not actually say blatantly that you need to buy more jewelry, I need to make profit. They won't say that. But on the contrary, that message is encoded into a very attractive discourse, and in that discursive form is very much attractive that the audience, they listen to that message, right? And when it is being put into a discourse, there are certain other features that come to play. Like there are the factors are the broadcast, the professional things regarding broadcasting technology, this setting. Many things come to play when a message is being encoded into a discourse, right? So we see a discourse maybe in the ad. No, that is a discourse that we see about the jewelry. What happens is that discourse is being propagated or it is being circulated. And in the third stage, so the discourse, the message is being put into a discourse, right? You have an ad now, and that ad is circulated among the people and they decodes it. In the third stage, they watch these ads and they decodes it in their own way. Is it clear? So that is when they put the message into use or they consume it. They decodes the message and they understand the message, and in the fourth stage they reproduce that message, and that is what the producer wants them to do. They accept the message and they reproduce it. They go and buy jewelry and they wear it, right? So, and make profit for the producer. So they reproduce the message. And there are a few more things that we need to learn, because in relation to these four stages. So it is not as transparent as it seems to be. No, the producer produces this meaning, encodes into a discourse, the audience decodes it and reproduces it. That is how it is. It has to be. It is expected. But most of the time, it won't be a symmetric process. It is not symmetrical. If it is symmetrical, then this is what is going to happen. The reproduction of the meaning will happen. But sometimes it is asymmetrical. Maybe because of the elements in encode, different factors that comes to play when a message is being encoded into a discourse, or because of the socio-economic and political and religious background of the receiver. This decoding process may not be same as the encoding process. The decoding and encoding, both the processes will not be symmetrical. They are asymmetrical, and distortions and misunderstanding happen, right? So if it is not an asymmetrical process, while decoding, there can be distortions as well as misunderstandings, right? There are another two terms that you need to understand. There will be a distortion in the meaning as well as misunderstanding. We'll continue with the same example. So, and also another thing that you need to understand is the message is to be put into a discourse which is which the audience can relate to, or which is appropriate, or which is recognizable, which the audience can recognize. For example, if this ad on jewelry is shown in a different context, or maybe for a Western audience, this discourse may not make any sense, right? Or in a community where they don't actually give that importance to jewelry and gold, such a discourse may not make any sense. Because it is not appropriate for them. So the message has to be, this discourse has to be appropriate, it has to be recognizable, the people need to relate to it. So these are other factors that comes to play. So only then they can identify with that message, or they can decode the message, right? So the same example. So in a Western context, this will not make a sense. A jewel-clad bride may not make sense to them as it makes sense to the Kerala society. So that is one example. So in another context, it may have there arise distortion of meaning, there arise misunderstanding, and so on. So that is about these four stages. And also we find a complex, no, it is not as simple as that. There is a power structure that controls these four stages. So the audience or the receiver, they think that they passively accept what they see it or objectively accept it, but it's not that. There is a power relation that comes to play. There is a complex structure of dominance in all these four stages. That is what Stuart Hall says. And then he moves on to identify three major positions assumed by the audience while decoding the message. One is the hegemonic position, and the second, that is the dominant hegemonic position. The second one is negotiated position. Third is the oppositional position. So we'll see what are these three positions that the audience assume. So one is the dominant hegemonic position, in which the communication process is symmetrical or symmetrical. You can say that whatever the sender sends, the receiver accepts and reproduces as the sender wants it to be reproduced, right? So that is the hegemonic dominant hegemonic position. But in the second one, the receiver identifies what is being sent, he decodes it, but at the same time he makes he negotiates with it. The meaning is negotiated. He don't accept as it is being sent. No, based on his socio-economic background, religious and political views, based on his own personal views on certain things, based on these his or her perspectives, he makes negotiations with the meaning. The meaning is negotiated. That is the negotiated position. But in the third one, that is the oppositional position, again the receiver understands the meaning but opposes to it. They don't accept what is being sent. They accept what is the exact opposite of what is being communicated. That is the oppositional position. So these are the three positions that Stuart Hall talks about. One is the dominant hegemonic position, second one negotiated position, and the third one where the receiver rejects the meaning. That is the oppositional position. So these are this is another concept that he has developed in this essay, three positions of the receiver. And then he moves on to talk about the connotative level and denotative level of visual signs. So in a discourse, we have this iconic sign or visual signs, and like signs in the language, you have a you have a signifier and a signified. They are. So in the post-structuralist era, we find them not having some proper connection, or they are not what they seem to be. But the same thing is repeated here as well. We'll discuss that. So in a visual sign, he says that it is not the actual thing. For example, I'll give you an example. A dog is being represented on the screen. So is it the dog itself? No, right? So it's a 2D, like another sign. For example, just try to understand this. So there is this dog, the animal dog, and in language it is represented as DOG. So this DOG, the sign DOG, has no connection with the actual animal, right? There is no actual connection or semblance between this DOG and the animal dog, right? It has no properties of the actual dog. But the sign in the television, the dog which is being shown, represented on the screen, it has some properties of the actual animal. It can bark, it can walk, but it cannot bite us, right? So there are certain properties that the visual sign shares with the actual animal, right? So that is one thing that he talks about. And then he moves on to say that there are such a connection with the actual thing, but that is where he talks about the denotative level and connotative level. So we think that, and we there are in certain context we what we find is that we don't say that it is a connotative meaning, because it has been naturalized or it has been universal, that we accept. We don't accept it as denotative because it has been that universal, or it has been naturalized in the process of communication, that we accept it as literal meaning. That is another thing that he talks about here, how the denotative level of meaning is not that denotative or objective as it is. It is not an objective thing. Again, that is also connotative. And then he talks about, and then that is where he is coming to why this because this connotative this connotation actually give rise to different interpretations. It is possible when meaning is connoted, it is possible to have different interpretations, and that is how we have polysemic values or multiple meanings, as Stuart Hall says in the communication process. It is possible to have multiple meanings because of this connotation, because these signs are connoted as well. And then one more term that you need to understand, that is the preferred meanings. That is preferred meanings, because you can interpret it in any way, a particular message, but there is a preferred reading and a preferred meaning that the producer wants the there is a particular meaning that the producer wants the receiver to accept, and that is called the preferred meaning. And the way is preferred reading. A preferred reading and a preferred meaning is they both are necessary to make this communication process symmetrical. And then he says, it is possible to have a perfectly transparent communication if these encoding and decoding process are symmetrical, but at the same time it can be systematically distorted if it is asymmetrical, and if the reading is not in a preferred manner, and the preferred meanings will not come to play, and the meanings connoted will differ. So these are the main points that Stuart Hall talks about in this essay, Encoding and Decoding. So keep these points in mind, and please read the essay, and if you have any doubts, please let me know. Thank you.